There's a reason I was kicked out of Daggerfall, chased out of Elderroot, and banned from Mournhold. I've tried every variety of intoxicant wine, ale, and Argonian swill this world has to offer. I've sampled skooma with the Kashyyyk, licked on Argonian history, and hunted magical toads with the Bosmer. None of that compares to Nord Mead. There's nothing like it. The purest stuff is made in Nord villages, but we are at war with the Nords, and a Breton has no guarantee of surviving a trip like that. Leave that sort of thing to professionals. There is still hope, however. If you're ever at a tavern, and there's a cask of Nord Mead, you'd be fooled to pass it up. Mead is made by fermenting honey and water, though a few recipes call for molasses. Sometimes, you add grain mash and strain it, but that isn't necessary. Some of the high elves call it honeyed wine, but mead needs more than good honey, and every meadery has its own recipe. After you drink enough mead, you learn the names of the brewmasters who created them. A drunk Nord will gladly punch another in the face over the honour of a good brewmaster. Then again, a drunk Nord would punch anyone in the face for just about anything. Every brewmaster has a distinct blend of spices, fruit, and sometimes hops, which makes the mead bitter, which makes some Nords bitter too. I've even heard tales of mead mixed with the blood of heroes, allegedly granting them the words of a poet or skald. I'd like a mead named after me, but I'm not going to bleed for it. An Altmer once told me that brewing is the basis of all cultures. It's why our ancestors started farming and forming cities. It's what we do when we've got too much wheat and barley and hops, and we're sick of farming. The culture of drinking seems to be what keeps Nords together. In that case, Nords must be sick of farming, because they brew and drink prodigious amounts of mead. Whenever a cask of really good mead is opened, Nords gather round because they know that the cask won't last long. But if you don't know how to behave in a Nord drinking culture, you'll end up broken, hungover, and helpless. I found out the hard way. Nords love to drink, but more than that, Nords respect those who can endure adversity. I know it sounds flowery for explaining why two drunk Nords would have a hit me hard in the face contest, but really, that's why their culture celebrates getting drunk. A Nord can gain respect by consuming more mead than anyone else, just as he's respected for surviving a blizzard or killing a bear with a sharp stick. Nord honour is something they talk about endlessly when they're drunk, and even more when they're sober. So the first thing you'll learn about Nords is if you want the respect, never turn down a drink. It's a test, and if you can't handle the next drink, leave. Otherwise you'll wake up somewhere hilarious, but you won't be laughing. Nords also love skalds. Songs and stories go over well with the drunk audience, once they've had enough of brawling, boasting, and throwing axes at each other. Their songs are all about how they're better than anyone else, at everything. They've all heard these over and over again, so bring some of your own. They're desperate to hear something new. Anywhere you go, drinking is also a good way to redress a mistake, or make an apology, and it's the same with Nords. If you lose a contest, you need to buy a drink. If you make a mistake or offend someone, you need to buy a drink. If you're insulted, stand there and take it. Then you need to buy a drink. You don't have to be the best brawler around to survive a room full of drunken Nords. You can also impress them by being clever, or by being talented. But you better be really good. For when it's time to take a punch in the face, you better be ready for a punch in the face. If you don't like getting punched, there are some things you should never talk about, like politics, who's the best brewmaster, and who punches the hardest. And never demand to know why someone just punched you in the face. If you want to hear more, buy me a drink the next time. I'm in Daggerfall, and I'll tell you a story. That's a very uneventful book, but I think it does a really good job of capturing the personality and the day-to-day lives of the Nords of Skyrim. And I think it's really interesting to see an outsider's opinion, being that the author's from Daggerfall, an arguably more civilised area of Tamriel. And I feel like I should mention for those that haven't played or don't understand the Elder Scrolls Online, and that is, when the author states that the Bretons are at war with Skyrim, that's because this book's written during the Second Era, during the events of the Elder Scrolls Online, well before the events of Skyrim, and more specifically the Fourth Era where the Elder Scrolls Skyrim takes place. I think one of the reasons that I've taken to Skyrim, or the Nords, so well, is not just because the game's been out for 10 years without a proper sequel, but rather because many of the traits and personalities of the Nords are similar to where I'm from. That Gaelic Celtic culture where drink is held in high regard is something that I can relate to on a personal level. And I really like for that reason that the Nords of Skyrim are often criticised by other peoples of Tamriel, but they're also admired.